Erev Tov, everyone. In the Parsha of Ekev, Moshe Rabbeinu says to the Jewish people in reviewing what happened in the Midbar, Vayancha vayarivecha. Vayancha, Rebbeinu Shalom, tortured you, tested you, gave you bad things. Vayarivecha, and he starved you. Vayachilcha es hamon, and he gave you mon to eat every day. Asher lo yodata, you never heard of it, you never saw it before. Lo yodu avosecha, you have no tradition regarding it. And then he says two things. Lamana soscha, he wanted to test you, whether or not you'll follow his words. And then he says this famous pasuk, Ki lo al alechem levado yichyeh adam, that human beings don't live by bread, by food alone. Ki al kol motza pi Hashem yichyeh adam. Human beings live on what the Lord ordains for them, what, so to speak, heaven speaks for them. So the Mefarshim look at this in a, we would say in a global view. We see that the tests of human beings in the Torah have to do somehow with food. The first test is Adam Rishon. Mikol eitz hagan ochel tochel. This is what you should eat, and this one is what you shouldn't eat. And naturally, what he is told not to eat is what he wants to eat, or his wife gives to him, whatever, however we'll interpret all the psukim. And the failure, the original chet, which decrees mortality in the world, has to do with food. And it would be no exaggeration to say that a great proportion of halacha and of Jewish tradition simply is because it exists because of food. Smicha for Rabbanos means at least that you know your day is food. It's possible cholav and taruvis, treifus. It's interesting to note that as sociologists to point this out, there is no food in the world that some human being will not consume. Now we have certain norms, so to speak, So, but when I was in Hong Kong a long time ago, so they have what's called a wet market. And you cannot believe the stuff they have for sale. Reptiles, bats, birds. The Torah itself, the Medrash brings the opinion of Rabbi Shimon that the Tanakama says that when you're regarding food that is forbidden, you should treat it as though it's absolutely horrible. You have no desire for it. So then you stay away from it. But Rabbi Shimon said, no, you're supposed to say, Efshibot. Oh yeah, it's very good. And nothing wrong with eating pork. But I can't help it. I can't eat from it because my Father in heaven has commanded me not to eat from it. So the test of obedience, there are other tests naturally, all the 368 lavin in the Torah. As money is a test. Morality, physical morality is a test. Speech is a test. There are all sorts of tests. But the test that is most omnipresent and most overwhelming and most numerous is that of food. And you see how it's reflected in Jewish society. The different standards of what is considered to be acceptable and not acceptable. And even if we say it's acceptable, it's not acceptable for me. I have a different standard. So the Meforshim say, food never satisfies a person. It's created in such a way that no matter how much we eat today, we're going to be hungry tomorrow. That's not true of other things. A person becomes older, so then his drives are different. But the drive for food remains the same. It's incessant. And that's the test, whether or not we see food as Motza Pi Hashem, that that's what God told us to eat, so to speak, or whether or not we just see food as a pleasure that we have to indulge in. And if we do that, so then food itself loses a great deal of its, if not all of its spiritual quality. And the Torah gave us mitzvahs with food. Matzah on Pesach, eating kodshin, food for Shabbos, because food apparently is at one and the same time, the easiest thing to sanctify and the most difficult thing to sanctify. And therefore Moshe uses these harsh terms when he describes it, Vayancha, Vayarivecha. So he says there that you didn't get new clothes for Yom Tov in the desert. They wore the same suit for 40 years. Your legs did not swell. But food was different. Food was every day. Does the moon fall today or not? In order to concentrate us on this idea of Al Kol Motza Pi Hashem Yichya Odom, that we live with God's will, so to speak, and that we should see, therefore, everything in life in that quality, and that, therefore, that's the test of the person. What kind of a food person is he or not? Chazal devoted a great deal of time to discuss food and manners in eating food, how to eat food, how to respect food. Chazal were not in favor of, fast food, and not in favor of eating food while you're standing. All sorts of little things. Is it an aveira? It's not an aveira. But it shows a lack of the true understanding of what food is. And therefore, food is called Motza Pi Hashem Yichya Odom. And if we approach food in that manner, we think of it that way, so it has a different quality for us as well, then we're less likely to fall into problems because of food. Rabbi Chananya ben Akash Yomer Rotza Kodesh Baruch Hu V'zarkos Yisrael Leficha Chir V'Lohem Torah Mitzvot Shenemar Anoi Chafetz Man Sitko.